You're listening to Friday Coast Magazine with Brenton and Shiona on 88.7 Adelaide's Coast FM.
Well, our first interview went off with a bang. Really interesting if you're interested in French culture, the French life at all, and it's obvious lots of you are. My second interview today, I'd feel very privileged to be able to interview this person because he is a wonderful person, wonderful organisation, and I'd like to welcome into the studio David Panter, CEO of Minda Incorporated. Good morning, David.
Good morning. A pleasure to be here.
It's always nice to see your happy face. You're looking very relaxed. You've had a month off.
I have, yes.
You have, so, and it shows, yes, you've had a good month. Minda Incorporated, I mean, what can we say about it? We've talked about it quite a lot. I'm always in complete awe of the work that you're doing there, especially since you came. You've taken off a new branch, and Minda has just gone from strength to strength in the last few years since you've come to Adelaide. Do you still enjoy Adelaide?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No better place to be.
I'm glad to hear it. We all feel the same way. Lots of things have been happening. We haven't spoken to you. We had a bit of sickness towards the end of last year and we missed our last interviews. How did the Christmas thing go, the Christmas fair and stalls? Were you happy with it?
Yeah, the Christmas fair is always a great event, and last year's was no different. We had a huge turnout, several thousand people, a great day that really creates an opportunity for the people that we support to have a good day, but also the local community. And so, it's a real community event, and it always gets a good turnout. I think we had more stalls and more food trucks than ever.
And need food, yes. So,
very popular. A very good raffle to end it all off. We had Santa Claus join us as well.
Great.
It was a great day.
It is. I think it's wonderful because the people, your clients, as you refer to them, the people that are taking the benefit of Minda, they actually have to work hard towards that day, don't they? I mean, it's a satisfactory thing for them. They don't just go along, they actually
absolutely
work.
Many of them will have volunteered and participated in preparing for the day and take part in the day as well. Absolutely.
That's right. Minda is all about events, though, isn't it, really? When you look at, I just downloaded some of the quick things, some of the things that you've got going, your walking group, your knitting and crochet, canasta at the cafe. They're all fairly hard things to organise, but they're going along beautifully.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole notion of events and activities of that nature, sort of social events, are really important because what we can see from looking at the data and research internationally is that the best indicator we can have of whether somebody with an intellectual disability is having a good life is the number of friends that they have that aren't family and aren't paid workers.
Of course, yes.
And so we want to create environments where people with intellectual disability can make friends. And so social events and activities are an important part of that because most of us will make our friends through those sorts of activities or through the workplace or through school or wherever that might be. And so we will have to work hard at creating events and activities that are going to give the opportunity for people to create friendships. Many of those happen at our sort of long-standing site at Brighton, but given we do provide services throughout South Australia, and so we've got active activities going on down in Mount Gambier, we've got services on the York Peninsula and throughout Greater Adelaide. So that focus on social activities and events is a really important part of the work that we do.
I don't think it matters who you are or what lifestyle you come from. Social networking always seems to be that underlying factor.
Absolutely.
That without that,
yeah,
it's nothing. I mean, we call it social networking now. I don't know what we would have called it 20, 30 years ago, maybe just being friendly. But it does rule your life to a certain extent. And the people that are at Minda, the fact that they're making friends, but also having a hobby which gives them an interest and makes them feel useful, and especially if they can see their items going sale at the Christmas fair. I noticed on one of the things that I did down, and I was a bit limited with what I could print out, the Limestone Coast.
Yes.
You've got things happening down there. That's a lovely spot of the world.
No, that's right. So our main hub for services there is in Mount Gambier itself, but we work across many of the small townships across the southeast and the Limestone area, and again offer a whole variety of services and activities there, and we've got a growing client base down there.
I was going to say, because previously people in those outer regional areas were pretty much deprived, no, not deprived, but wasn't a lot around for them to do. So if you had a disabled child or something like that, it would have been hard to find something for them to be interested in, and you're giving it to them. It's wonderful.
I mean, I think it's a common experience across all rural and remote areas in the state that access to any sort of service, whether it's disability, whether it's aged care, health services, is limited. And so certainly we think it's important that we play our part in trying to expand that range. Obviously, people have choices about who they get a service from, but within a rural area it's a more limited choice.
It is.
And so we're really working to develop those services there. As I say, we support around about sort of 60, 70 individuals down in the Lime Coast area.
That's great, yeah.
And that's expanding month by month.
It is, because you can understand why people live in those areas. They're such beautiful areas. But if you've got a family member that needs that help, then you'd have to toss up, wouldn't you, whether it's worth living in the city or the country.
And I think that the other element is that clearly in a location like Mount Gambier, we also offer employment to staff to provide our services. And that makes those services quite special. And when I go down to Mount Gambier to visit our services every 2 or 3 months, and I'm always blown away by the sense of community that there is. Because our staff live and work there, they're often friends with the people they're supporting, because they see them in other contexts, not just through their job.
Great too that it gives some people the opportunity to stay in their chosen place.
Absolutely.
Whereas sometimes with those career choices, they would have to come to the city to work, and this lets them stay. Mount Gambier is a beautiful spot. Really, it's a lovely. We used to have conferences there every now and then for community radio.
Ah, right.
And we'd go down. Sometimes we used to hire a bus and go down on the bus, a nice trip. But the whole community used to come together for that conference, you know, and put on a lot of things for the conference attendees. I like the shops at Mount Gambier, nice shops at Mount Gambier. But getting back to your main focus, I guess, Adelaide, what's been happening in the world of Minda here, down at Brighton, Somerton? Lots of things happening since you've last been in.
Yes, so we're continuing to develop and implement our strategy. And that strategy is very much around how we continue to provide good quality support, how we really focus on what quality means, but also look at the range of activities that we're providing. Going back to that notion of social activities, we've just emerged from a very busy fringe because our cafe in Brighton has been a venue for about half a dozen fringe activities, which are just part of the Adelaide Fringe Festival. They're open to anybody to buy tickets and go to. The deal that we get is if an artist chooses that venue, then we get an opportunity to have concession tickets for our clients so they can attend. So I think, as I say, we've had about half a dozen events during February and early March there, which have been great. We have also been looking at creating new programs for younger people with intellectual disability, where what we've identified is that if you are your average young person who doesn't have an intellectual disability, by the time you leave school, you've possibly had a couple of Saturday jobs. And you've got a bit of experience under your belt. So if you're thinking about moving into employment, then you've got something to put on your CV.
Bit of a base.
For people with intellectual disability, they often don't have that, but they are still looking for some form of employment into the future.
Yeah.
And so we've created a supported volunteers program, and the latest of which is with Vinnie's. So we can support a younger person with intellectual disability to be a volunteer at Vinnie's.
Right, yeah.
So they attend as a volunteer. They have the support of one of our team to help them do that.
Yes.
But then that individual starts to get some experience, which they can put on a CV.
On a CV.
And so that's proving really popular. And we've now got arrangements with a number of other not-for-profit charitable organisations like Vinnie's. Vinnie's is the latest, to facilitate those sorts of volunteer programs for young people with intellectual disability. So just an example of the way in which we're also thinking creatively about the different sorts of services we can offer that add value to people's lives and create opportunity for their development and for their future.
You're thinking way outside the square. You know, that's what I love. That you're looking at the children of today that in 5 years' time are going to be in that position in high school. And as you said, you know, it's easy enough for, you know, our teenagers to go to Woolies or Coles or anything like that, but it's a lot harder for them. And just to know that opportunity is there is must make them feel so much better.
No, that's right.
You're really in the market of building up confidence and building those relationships. And, of course, they go along and they work a couple of hours after school or Saturdays. They make more friends.
Yep.
You know, it just rolls, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I think that's very much our overall focus is around how we are really helping community more generally to become an inclusive community.
Yes.
So that people with intellectual disability aren't seen as being exceptional or, you know, we still do get a lot of stories. It's interesting in the research we've done with people with intellectual disability and their families that, you know, one of the reasons why they love coming to the cafe at Brighton that we run is because they see it as being a safe place because they still do report that when they sometimes go into the local high street cafe, they get stared at or commented on.
Yeah.
And that just makes them feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so whilst we've moved a long way in terms of communities' attitudes, there's still more work to be done.
Yeah.
And Minda is the state's biggest and longest standing. We're 127 years old this year.
Wow.
You know, the biggest and longest standing organisation working with people with intellectual disability. Part of our responsibility is to do that advocacy and to support people with intellectual disability to have a voice.
And I think you're giving people people who may have a child at the moment with a disability, you're giving them the chance to see a normal future. You know, whereas many, many years ago, that wasn't there. Minda was there, but it was very limited in what they could do. Now, with all those opportunities, people in that situation with children, teenagers, young 20s and that, you're giving them the chance to think, I can lead a normal life.
Absolutely.
And that's the important, that giving them that confidence. You're not giving them a death knell. You know, you're giving them a chance to get out into the community and be a coveted, valued part of community, and that's so important.
It's that constant striving for an inclusive community where people are recognised for what they bring and what they can contribute, and therefore are of value and can be respected.
And they can contribute. They have a lot of wonderful points, a lot of assets that we don't have. So it's just, you know, 6 of one, 6 of the other. Just quickly before we finish, the aquatic centre, because I like talking about that. What's happening there?
So earlier we've been doing work last year on creating a new allied health service, gymnasium, etc., as part of the hydrotherapy pool building. And now we're looking at the hydrotherapy pool itself. It's a very important aspect of the services we provide. Our hydrotherapy pool is used by many of the people we support, but it's also a broader community asset. And so there are lots of physio outfits, for example, physiotherapists who will book time at the hydrotherapy pool because they might have their own patients who are older, who've had a hip replacement, who need hydrotherapy as part of their rehabilitation. We have a number of schools who use the hydrotherapy pool for swimming training, etc., teaching to swim, etc. And so we need to make sure that that pool is functional. These things do take a lot of attention in terms of keeping them up to date, maintenance, the heating of the water, all those sorts of things. So we'll be working on that later this year as well to ensure that that continues as a community asset for people.
It's wonderful to have that facility open to the public, you know, in its own way. If people want to know about it, David, best to go on the website and have a look?
Absolutely, that's the easiest place to do it, and likewise with the cafe. And really want to reinforce that all of, you know, we're so privileged at Minda that we have got our main site at Brighton. It's a huge asset.
It is.
We're one of the few landowners that actually own the land all the way to the low water mark.
It's beautiful.
So we've got all that beach
Very
as well,
lucky,
but that's obviously all public. But our whole of our site in Brighton is publicly accessible.
Yes.
We have lots of local community members walk their dogs in the grounds, lots of local people using the cafe, using the hydrotherapy pool, and that's what we want to see, because we don't want, you know, around about 180 people with intellectual disability that we support live at that site in Brighton. We've got as many and more who live in the community from Mount Gambier all the way through to the York Peninsula. But for the 180 or so who live there, they want to be part of a thriving neighbourhood and a thriving community. And that's about mixing with the local community and being part of that community.
Beautiful spot. I've been talking with David Panter, who's the CEO of Minda Incorporated down at, I'm not quite sure, it's at Brighton or Somerton Park. It's a bit of a mix, whichever way you go. But one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, I think. When we were down there doing the OB earlier this year, and you look out at the beach and you think, why do people rave about Hawaii and places like that when you've got a place like Brighton Beach right on your doorstep? Absolutely magnificent. Thank you, David. I hope we have some more interviews this year with things that are happening. I'm sure you've got lots of things going on in that mind of yours. You're just a hive of activity. And some of the areas that you're progressing into that other people wouldn't even think of. And you've got that forward vision for what you want for the people that you look after. And I think it's truly amazing. Absolutely. Thank you for your time. It's really very much appreciated.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Buying property can be stressful, but not if you have an expert on your side. I'm Chris Waterman. I'll be your buyer